I think that we can start. And let me start with an introduction. So today we're going to be talking about how to turn social media into real business results. And I'm very glad that all of you are here. In this session, we're going to talk about what it takes to go from posting content day to day to running a social media strategy that has real directions and real results. And our goal today is really simple, is to give you a framework and practical tools and the confidence to move from posting content randomly to actually communicating with real intention and real impact. If we can move to the next slide. So on today's agenda, we're going to be covering first, Manuel is going to be covering the core of today's session. So what is actually means to build a social media strategy in hospitality, how to move from random content to a system built on content pillars, planning, and a deep understanding of your audience. And we're also going to be walking you through the F1 visa, our programs, our locations, our partners, and by the end of the sessions, we're going to have a little Q&A, so feel free to put any questions in the chat. And today I would like to introduce also our speakers that are joining us. So we have Christina, who's an advisor at Hospitality Academy. She has guided numerous students through admissions and visa preparations and career development in the US. So she will be introducing Hospitality Academy and also explaining the F1 visa pathway that makes studying in the US possible. And of course, we're also joined by Manuel, who is a brand manager at Hospitality Academy. And he has a strong background in reading data, understanding customer behavior, and turning those insights into sharper and more effective brand communications. And together, they provide both academic and communicational perspectives. So please, Christina, over to you.
Everyone. So I'll start off with explaining who Hospitality Academy is. We are Hospitality Academy, and we offer accredited hybrid programs in the United States as well as some other locations soon to be launched, combining online studies with real paid work experiences as well as hospitality brands where you're able to get recruited. We don't just prepare you academically, we support you every step of the way in terms of CV coaching as well as visa assistance and connecting you with our network of over 500 properties, including luxury hotels and restaurants. Because we work closely with the industry, we know that the hospitality professionals actually need to succeed. And one of the most in demand skills right now is knowing how to communicate with your brand strategically in the digital world. That's exactly why we're here today. And not just to talk about the social media, but how to give you a framework to apply this immediately, whether you're managing a property, building a new brand, or just starting your career in hospitality. I'll leave it to Manuel, for the next section.
So, hello everyone. Pleasure to meet you all. I'm Manuel. I'm the brand manager for Hospitality Academy. And I want to talk with all of you a little bit about what is a social media strategy. I'm sure that whenever we hear about social media, you guys immediately think TikTok, Instagram. Older people will think Facebook, YouTube, formerly Twitter, now X. But what's the most important part about social media? When you are part of a company, when you're managing the communications and the identity of a brand and a company, it is very important to understand that social media is not just random posting. It's not just getting a fun video out there or a trend dance or just images. Everything that you see on social media, whether it is a brand or an influencer, has been planned. Sorry to break the illusion there, but nothing has ever been random. Every single thing that you've seen that a company has posted or that an influencer has posted, it's been planned and it's been prepared way ahead of time. So that's the most important thing about social media strategy. We plan through it and we define what achieves the success within social media. What do we want to talk about? What do we want to do? And what you're going to say is far more important, and how you measure it, than sometimes how many likes it comes from it. It's not about just filling out the feed, it's about building content that truly drives the business goals, and that understands that social media, despite being a fun place for us to be, is a place also where we can conduct business, where we can truly place the brand, and where we can actually help it achieve their great goals and what we want them to do. If we can go for the next slide, please. So what's the biggest part about strategy versus just posting habit? Being on social media, having a presence on social media, it's not about just posting every day or every few days and uploading stories and doing reels. Is actually about defining clear goals of what you want. It's about truly building what the company needs from you. So it's less about just getting big followers or getting a lot of likes within a post or getting a lot of visibility. It's about truly seeing how those objectives impact in hospitality and impact in the businesses that you will be joining. Things such as increasing direct bookings, building brand awareness, driving conversation towards the covers, or pretty much just filling out the books, seeing how much people truly connect with the brand, or even understanding what are the problems or what are the weaknesses that currently your brand is facing, or even that day-to-day operations are facing. A lot of the time, social media, it's the first point of contact for people. Whenever we have a complaint, we always go to the brand's page, or we go to the Instagram, we go to the Twitter, and we just let ourselves just complain. Well, the people who receive this information have to do something about it. It's not just, oh, I see your comment and I reply to it. There's the side of crisis management, but there's also how much does it affect what we're doing afterwards? What are we doing so this is not repeated, so that we are not always falling back on these same mistakes, and what are we doing to improve ourselves based on the results that we get from social media. We can go to the next slide, please. So in order to do that, objectives need to be specific enough. They need to be built around a framework. And the best framework in that sense is SMART. So SMART is a very basic concept within any business and marketing, which is your goal has to be specific. You have to have a clear idea in mind. It has to be measurable. We cannot measure how happy people were, but we can measure how much they interacted with it. We can measure how much they truly shared the content. It has to be achievable. We all want to go viral, but the truth of the matter is that virality is something very complicated to achieve, and it's something that is lightning in a bottle. It happens once, and there is no formula to go viral. So always, whenever you're planning a goal, whenever you're building your strategy, you have to understand that whatever you're doing has to be achievable. It doesn't have to go underperforming, but it's always better to shoot for the moon, so long as you're keeping your feet on reality. Obviously, it has to be relevant. Your objectives don't exist within a bubble. You don't just create things for social media, and they don't just live and die on social media. Whatever you're putting out there has a repercussion within the objectives that the company has, that whether the hotel or the restaurant, their day-to-day operations are affected by what you're putting out on social media. You can increase the number of people or even decrease the number of people that come into a single day based on what you're posting, based on what you're doing out there. And of course, time bound. You need to have a limit. We cannot just always measure the same thing forever and ever. You need to have a perfect framework. You know, this is how long it takes us to achieve something, to see the true results of what we're putting out there. When it comes to organic social media, and this is everything that we do that is not paid for, the standard that we do is in around 90 days to 3 months. So anything that you output, say on January, you'll start seeing the results of it and how much people react to it around March or April. That's when you'll actually see your results of your effort. So you're playing a long game, and it's a very patient game. It's a lot about testing and trying and putting yourself out there, and sometimes you're gonna fail. That's the reality on social media. Sometimes you're gonna fail, and then you learn from what you've done and you try a new strategy. You take the successes from what you've done and you build your next goal, your next specific strategy that you want to do these things. Can we go for the next slide, please? So as I said, social media does not exist in isolation. Social media, and this is something that a lot of brands skip, and a lot of people who are managing social media sometimes don't see. It's connected to your entire commercial calendar. It's connected to your seasonality. It's connected to your revenue goals, to your brand positioning. So if you think about it, if the hotel is going to have a summer package, then that's something that has to be built up in advance. You have to not just build the expectation that this is going to be coming up, that eventually people are going to get there. You also need to do a lot of planning beforehand. You don't create the post that you want to showcase on the very same day that you're going to be posting it. You need to prepare in advance. You need to plan out your tone, your calendar, the way that you want to communicate to people. So the most important thing, and if anything that you have to take out from this meeting, is that when it comes to social media, your social media needs to be aligned with the business. Every post has a commercial purpose. It's not just decoration. It's not just posting for the sake of posting. And it's this alignment what separates true brand users and actual strategists from just regular social media users. And that's what makes a brand work within the environment of social media. We can go for the next slide, please. So how do we do this? And what is like the first part towards building a social media calendar? The content pillars, planning, and the audience. If you can go for the next slide, I want to show you a short example. Okay, so you just seen an example of a social media campaign. I want to give you guys, I'd say a minute to type down, what do you think this brand was selling? You can just put it in the comments and let's see, what do you guys think that brand was selling? This is, for example, fashion, designer clothes, luxury. It is very vague, right? So it seems more like it's fashion, luxury, maybe designer clothes, lifestyle, maybe even makeup. Well, one thing that you guys, at least one person here actually designs, for example, something that someone's mentioned. One person that actually got it here is they're actually selling cars. This is an automotive brand, a luxury automotive brand. It's truly not something that we're connecting or we're seeing with what is being showcased. So this is the difference between going for a vibe, going for, of course, yes, it's a Jaguar. But for anyone who doesn't actually know the brand Jaguar or who's not familiar with the brand Jaguar, it can be anything. And that's the problem. And that's what happens when you just create social media content without a formal plan, without truly understanding your audience, and without actually, when you just go for the vibes instead of creating actual solutions. So what happened with this ad, and it's a really good case study of why this social media planning matters. This ad actually created a massive backlash for Jaguar, and it actually brought down their stocks. People stopped buying Jaguar because they felt that this communication, this brand, no longer connected with them. It was no longer what they actually thought that it should be. No longer transmitted the sense of luxury, no longer transmitted the sense of strength that the brand had always communicated. Before they did this, they actually deleted their whole Instagram and they just posted this. And it seemed almost like the brand had done a hard turn into makeup or into the fashion business. And that's the most important thing. Whenever we're creating content, we need to always think about what we're doing, why we are creating these things. Because if you don't know the brand, if you don't know what they're selling, if this is the first connection you ever had with this brand, with this company, then you're never going to actually buy what they're actually selling to you. As such, this is one of the first things that you always need to ask yourself. Is aesthetic my strategy, or do I actually need to build something? What do I actually want to achieve with this? In order to do this, then we have to ask ourselves, does this communicate meaning? Does this create something for the person in the moment that they're actually seeing? And who am I talking to? How far am I going in the conversation with them? Who am I talking to? What do I actually want them to achieve? And you need to understand your audience. In hospitality, your audience is not just one person. It's not just one block of persons. You have many kinds of people. So you have from the leisure traveler, the one that is dreaming about discovering, he's comparing options, he's checking everything from the top level to the lower level. You have the seasoned business traveler that is looking for something like reliability, efficiency, trust. You have the local foodies, you have the event planners, you have the couples that are going on their honeymoon. So you need to understand where your goal is, who are you talking to, and what do they actually need. Each of them needs their own specific content, the content that will drive them forward. And it has to align with what your company actually needs. Is your company looking to get in more single occupancy within rooms? Or are they looking to increase their family occupancy? Those kinds of things are how you align it with the goals of the business and how you create the context, how you create actually the communication that you need to create. Because if what I need to bring is a lot more family, then there's no point in me showcasing single people enjoying their life, right? I want to showcase how friendly, how kid and how family friendly our hotel is. You can go for the next slide, please. And that's where content pillars come in. Content pillars give your team and yourself a sense of direction. How do we build a content pillar? A content pillar is going for a classic theme, a recurring theme that you can find within life, within context, and you think of them as the chapters of your brand history. They give your team direction, they help your audience understand why they're coming back to you, and they help you understand where your communication needs to go. And once you have a pillar, you can fly away with your ideas. An example here that you can see of a content pillar would be luxury experience. Luxury experience can be applied to many brands, and then you have to translate it. How does it apply for your own brand? So it can be through effortless luxury, through seamless, personalized, and anticipatory service, through a desired content. And then you can move it into how you execute it. What are the visuals that you want to showcase? What is the type of messaging that you want to say? What should the caption be? So things such as revealing the suite, golden hour sunsets, how amazing, for example, the food service is, or how pampered you will be with the spa service. These kinds of things are things that help you understand the luxury experience. And you do the same thing for all the pillars. It is always recommended that whenever you're building a content calendar, you first start with your pillars. And sometimes we can be very ambitious. We can want to have 1 million pillars. And the truth is, you don't need 1 million pillars. You just need some really good ones. Really good 4 to 6 pillars. It's all that you need, and you can build millions of pieces of content. So whenever you go into a brand's social media, whenever you go to an influencer's social media, you'll see that the type of content that they post can always be classified on repeated patterns. They always go for something that can follow the exact same narrative whenever you look at it. So maybe every 3 posts or every 4 posts, they will post something that will actually be very similar to the other thing that they posted. And that's why content pillars are important. They give you consistency, and they make you understand easily what your audience wants, what your audience expects out of you, and what you want to communicate and how you align it with the business. Can we go for the next slide, please? And that's where content calendar comes from. As I said, everything that you guys have seen on social media has been pre-planned. Every single calendar every single post that you've seen and every single social media that is managed by a brand has been planned and created either a month or several months in advance. They've done shootings, they've done video recordings. None of it has been created on the very same day that you're posting the post. It's very important that you understand that you have to plan out these things. You have to test and you have to understand where you're going. The most simple way, and it's these 4 steps, you start with your commercial calendar, you align what are the expectations of the business with the weeks that are coming up. Then you start assigning your pillars across the weeks. You see how they feed on each part of the day. Then you start batching your content creator. You start creating the different posts that you want to see, depending on the different channels that you want to see, depending on the different areas that you want to understand. And finally, you begin to build your asset library. You begin to produce your videos, your images, your posts, your blogs. All of it, you have it in a backup. So it's never random what you're outputting on a single day. You always have what is going out. And not only that, most of the time, you'll also build a backup. You'll have, if anything happens, if a crisis happens, you'll always be prepared for it. And that's the key to being the most effective within managing social media and actually turning social media into a profitable business. You can go for the next slide, please. Now, it's not just about planning and creating. Then we also have the measuring. What are we showcasing? How are we showcasing? And how do we say that our actions and that what's happening in social media is actually effective? And this is something that sometimes plagues a lot the up-and-coming social media managers or anyone who's in the business. We'll go for the next slide, please. The vanity metrics. What are vanity metrics? And this is a very unique term that exists within digital marketing. It's any metric that looks impressive on the surface, but when you actually look at it, it does not actually create anything. It does not have a direct influence within revenue, within growth, within decision-making. It's just there to make the social media manager feel like they did their job. They're just very pretty. They're really big numbers a lot of the times, but they don't really translate it into anything actionable for the company. And I think it's very important that we understand that this type of metrics are the most basic ones and the easiest ones that we can see. The total number of followers, the likes and comments in isolation, how many impressions and how many reach a particular post had without context, how many post views do we constantly have. They may sound good, but the reality is that for most brands, this is not optimal. We're just wasting sometimes our time and the brand's time. So the most important thing when we're looking at metrics is to ask ourselves, okay, we have this amount of followers. How does it affect us? So what does it do? What happens with these things? If there is no answer to this, or if it's meaningless, then it doesn't really help us at all. It's known as a vanity metric. What are metrics that actually tell you something? What are metrics that can actually increase what you're doing? Things such as, for example, link clicks and website traffic, direct message volume, how many inquiries do you have, how many bookings do you obtain, shares and saves. And you'll say, why do shares and saves are more important than likes, for example? Because when you are sharing something, when you're saving something, that means you're identifying yourself with that content. You want to go back to it and you want other people to refer to it. That it takes, even by the way that you actually interact with it, it takes a few seconds longer than just giving a like and moving away from the post. And that already signals to you that that particular post has a high intent. People want to go back to it. People want to understand it. Your engagement rate, what's your engagement rate? You've probably seen influencers that have hundreds of thousands of followers. And then when you actually look at their posts, you'll see that they have 100 likes, 50 likes. So where are those hundreds of people who say that, hundreds of thousands of people who say that they love their content, that they're subscribed to? Why are they not interacting? Why are they not actually looking at what the person is doing? And that is something that is very important to always keep in mind. And is where For example, micro-influencers or nano-influencers are far more powerful than your big name influencers, because when your audience is maybe just 1,000, but you get a 40% engagement rate, that means that out of those 1,000 people, at least 400 of them are actually interacting with you. But if maybe you have 1 million followers and only a 1% is looking at you, we're looking at way less people. You're not as credible. You're not as important to the people, and they're just letting you pass. And that's the worst thing that can happen to you whenever you're actually building social media that has to drive impact towards the business, to be invisible, to be screaming in silence, and to just add to the social media noise. What you always want and what you always want to track is how effective you are at keeping people in the conversation. So what's the idea? The goal is not just to prove if the social media works, if we can go viral, if we can appear on a lot of feeds. It's more important to understand what works for the brand. How do we actually create an effect on people who are looking at our social media content, on people who are interacting with our reels, with our posts? And from there, how do we continue improving on it? We already found that they like this type of content. Okay, how do we repeat it so it does not become just slop or just repetitive buzz on social media? How do we build upon it and create interesting narratives, create series out of it? And how do we create even new posts and new content ideas out of what's already worked? And how do we do it? We set a baseline, we track it consistently, and then we iterate upon it. Go for the next slide, please. So this all goes down into a connected environment. You plan your strategy, you align with the business goals. You set your audience, you understand what they need, you understand what they're looking for. You build the content pillars based on the interests of your audience. Then you start creating all your posts, you plan them out, you test, you make different, you have a lot of many of bloopers even that sometimes can become interesting pieces of content. And then once you've actually posted it and once you've actually shown it to the people, then you start measuring. You see how successful it's been. You see what if it was actually doing what you expected it to do, or if it had the reverse effect. And then you start creating out of it what you actually want. It's less about being a to-do list. It's less about just filling out the profiles and the calendars and it looking pretty on social media. It's more about what you're actually adding to the conversation, what you're actually pushing forward for people. And that's pretty much everything that we've covered right now. One system, how it works, and when it stops just being just pretty posts on social media. So thank you so much for your attention. And that's pretty much everything from my side. If you have any questions, I'll be happy at the end of the session to check them with you
guys. And I'll be taking over from now. I'll be explaining some of the programs that are available with us in Hospitality Academy, moving along from the webinar. Now, following on to the next slide, I'll be explaining on what the F1 visa is. We can go to the next. Now, F1 visa itself in the United States is a study visa. What's important is that it's a non-immigrant visa, allows international students to study in specifically US accredited establishments in the United States. To be able to qualify with the programs we have available, you must be accepted into an accredited university, as well as demonstrate financial credibility. What this means is proof of funds that you will be financially sufficient during your program studies. Now, to also qualify, you must maintain full student enrollment as well as to upkeep your grade point average within your program studies as well. And the grade point average is dependent on the location that you end up choosing. Now, in addition, you also need to show intent. This is more for government purposes, to show intent to return back home after your program completion. Now, moving on to the next slide. What's important to note? We also in our programs provide work opportunities. As I mentioned initially at the start of this webinar, we're partnered with over 500 properties, including luxury brands as well as fine dining restaurants in the United States. What this F1 program allows you to do is to elevate your educational profile as well as upkeep and elevate your career in hospitality specifically. Once you have your F1 status as well as the enrollment to the university, you'll be able to apply for a CPT, which stands for Curricular Practical Training. This is done throughout the duration of your program. Now, once your program is over, you are also eligible to extend your visa for 1 extra year through an OPT, which is optional practical training. Now, this optional practical training, the OPT, is dependent on how many working hours you've spent throughout your CPT. So what I do recommend to check this eligibility and these details is to book a call with us to figure out what works best with you. What's important to note as well is these are not separate visas from the F1 study visa. This is an addition to your F1 visa. So your work authorization needs to be applied once you have your F1 status. Now, following on to the next slide, I'll be explaining to you about our programs that we have available. We have currently the Master's in Business Administration, as well as a Bachelor's in Business Administration. Recently, we've also launched a DBA, a Doctor's in Business Administration, all of which include a hospitality certification that's added onto this. Now, following on to the Master's, this is our main program that we have to offer. The MBA allows you to study for 2 years with an additional 1 year through an OPT. Now, again, it's dependent on how long you spend working with your CPT. You are also going to be able to do 2 birds with 1 stone. A lot of candidates ask us the question, how are you able to work and study being at the university at the same time? This is done through a hybrid modality. Majority of the coursework is done online. However, there are mandatory in-person classes that you will need to attend to be able to justify that you're going to a US accredited university. Now, like I said earlier, it needs to be a recognized US degree. Now, in addition, depending whether it's a bachelor's or a master's, it needs to be US accredited by the USCIS department, as well as providing proof of English proficiency. If you have been to an English-speaking university, meaning in the UK, in New Zealand, Australia, you would be able to be exempt from this English proficiency exam that you need to take. Additionally, depending on the location, like I said, you do need to uphold your grade point average, which is the grades that you receive throughout your duration of program studies. Otherwise, it may affect your CPT and OPT, your work authorization. Now, like I said, the duration of the program is originally 2 years long. This is how long you are going to be studying. However, you do have an opportunity to extend that visa for 1 extra year. Following on to the next slide, we also have our bachelor's. Similarly, it is done through a hybrid modality. However, it is done through a weekly basis, meaning that you have to attend the in-person classes once a week. You have to apply to the program with a completed high school diploma. And much like the MBA, if you've completed your high school diploma in an English-speaking country, you would be exempt from the English proficiency exams. Unlike the MBA, the program duration is a 3.5-year duration. This duration is for the study aspect. For the working aspect of the CPT, you are able to work from the 2nd year of your program studies up until graduation. Then you would be eligible for OPT depending on your working hours through your CPT, which you can find out more through a discovery call with us. Now, in addition, like I said, we do have a DBA as well that we've recently launched, and this is for those who hold both an MBA degree as well as a BBA degree. Now, following on to our following slides, I'll be explaining about the locations. We currently have 5 locations where the campuses are located. Now, remember I mentioned earlier, it is done through a hybrid modality. Depending on the location, you are not limited to staying in the locations that you're studying in, because technically speaking, if you are going to the Phoenix campus, you can be working and living in Colorado, for instance, with our host company partners working there in the luxury establishments that we have to offer. In addition, we have Miami, Orange County, which is in California, as well as Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States, and Detroit. For the DBA, we do have a new location offered, which is Dallas, Texas. And the DBA is also available in Miami as well as in Orange County. Now, following on to the next slide, including our partners. I did mention that we have over 500 properties that we work with in different parts of the United States. Much of our F1 candidates get hired through Hyatt Regency in multiple locations. The Nets Club, which is a venture company of the Soho House, which is located in Washington, D.C. This is a great location if you're looking to deduct travel costs to attend the in-person classes for your program duration. In addition, we have One Hotels, which is a luxury brand located in both Hawaii as well as in Miami, and many more luxury brands that we work with. Now, I'm going to give it on to Kate and let you guys ask the questions.
Thank you so much, Christina, and thank you so much, Manuel. This was a very engaging session. I think that we all learned a lot of things, both about social media strategy and also about Hospitality Academy. So let me quickly go through the chat and answer some of the questions. I see here one first comment. I can see that Siddhartha mentioned that he didn't really understand the connection. I think that this was just a recurring question in the chat. So our webinar today was mostly focused, as you have seen, on social media strategy. And since we are talking about hospitality brands in general, we focused our main examples on hospitality and the hospitality businesses when talking about social media strategy. And as always, we have those webinars. We take the time also to explain about Hospitality Academy, to give you all a chance to explore more and see what are the opportunities or of work and study programs in the US. Now, I see a question of what's the name of the university. So I replied in the chat, we are Hospitality Academy, and you can, of course, explore way more on our website that I also linked in the chat. And I have also a question from Thuli of where can we access the recording. So the recording is going to be sent to you via email. No worries about that. You're going to be able to replay it again. And it's also going to be posted on our YouTube channel. So let's wait for a couple of minutes if we're going to receive any more questions. I have a question for Christina. Where is the location for MBA?
Perfect. In terms of the locations for the MBA, all 5 locations are offered, as well as Dallas, the new location that's also offered as well for the Masters in Business Administration. Now, to also follow through with the question that was asked previously about the name of the universities, since we work with multiple university partners, it is important to note that there are different universities that we work with. So it's better to actually book a discovery call to understand your eligibility based on your GPA, so the grades that you received, as well as what your preferences are on the location to give you those further details.
I have another question asking, do you have any university in Houston?
Unfortunately, as of right now, Dallas, Texas is the only location that's closest to Houston.
Thank you so much. I hope
I
that
got
this
a quick
answers
question.
your question.
If that's okay, I would like to ask you. I'm trying to understand, and sorry if I joined a bit late, so maybe I'm not sure if this was discussed earlier. So this webinar is mainly related to social media and then also includes hospitality. So the universities or the programs that are offered, every university or the program has a unique CIP code, which allows the students to work specifically in that particular field. So let's say if I'm more interested in social media, being from an hospitality background, how does that work for me? Am I, like, let's say my role is limited to front desk, then how do I get an access to the social media thing that was just explained?
From what I understand of the question, tell me if I understood it incorrectly. Is your question, how does your front office experience affect the job opportunities throughout your program studies? And how does social media affect this? Or correct me
That's
if I'm
correct.
wrong.
Like, let's say, yeah. So what I'm trying to say here is, let's say if I'm from a hospitality background with working on a front desk designation, then my CIP code, when I work on CPT or OPT work authorization, is limited to working only at front desk or only related to hospitality. Now, when we talk about social media, it's mainly into digital or technology background. So will I be able to work on a different domain as well, or I'm trying to understand that.
Very good question. Now, maybe Manu can add on to what I'll already say, but what the Hospitality Academy provides and the CPT work authorization, what's important to note is based on your current experiences, is the likelihood of you getting the position for the CPT. For instance, you said that you have front office experience. If you were to apply with our host company partners to F&B positions, you will most likely not be receiving these offers and contracts. So it's important that during your program duration of studies, you apply to positions that are offered in the experiences that you've had. Whether you've had guest relations or front office or back of house admin, you have to apply to the positions that you have experience in your resume. Now, during your program duration, since you're going to be studying in Master's in Business Administration, this is elevating your hospitality education and profile because you're going to be looking into more managerial aspects. And the 5 core subjects of the degree itself, specifically for the MBA, will be marketing, human resources, economics, finance, and accounting. So this will be elevating your profile. And after the program, you have the opportunity to still upkeep your hospitality resume whilst working in hospitality fields, as well as elevating that profile with managerial positions and applying to better positions in the future. Does this make sense, Manu? You can add.
Thanks for explaining.
Yes, so just to complement on that, as part of the MBA and the BBA, part of business administration training is you will learn about marketing, about how to measure, how marketing impacts the day-to-day operations of hospitality. So while it may not be that you will join the social media team while you're within doing your program, it is skills that you will start to learn during your BBA, your MBA, and your DBA. And these are skills that can later be applied, especially once you start to enter into more managerial roles, when you start going into more director roles. At the end of the day, you start to then understand the impact that communications have within the hospitality industry, which is something that sometimes gets overlooked. And so it's important that you start to learn a lot about how to measure, how to correctly request these things once you are running the team, that way of saying.
Thank you. Thank you for more information on this. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I also just sent a link in the chat for a free discovery call. It's totally free of cost, and you can just book it to have an individual call with an advisor from Hospitality Academy so that you can ask more questions and discover more about your unique profile. I think that dedicating those few minutes to a call would also answer more and more questions you might have. And of course, anybody who's attending this webinar, please just go on the link and book a slot. And if you have any questions, our advisors would be super happy to answer all of them. I have another question here. So we just replied about the potential collaboration. If you have students who might be interested in our MBAs, just feel free to email us at learn@pihospitality.com and we can explore those opportunities together. I have another question. Hi team, I'm from Mumbai, India. And Hemant is interested about the cost of program and also the F1 visa success from India.
So I'll be able to answer that question. The program fees are universal for anyone joining the program from any location. Like I said, depends on the program and the location itself. So whether it's in Washington, D.C., or Phoenix or Miami, the fees do change because it is coming from different university partners. Now, my best recommendation is to book a call to find out what's the most relevant to you because it does depend on your eligibility.
And also, Christina, could you please comment about the F1 visa success rate for India?
Yes, of course. Now, I won't lie, it is always best to do a change of status. So in this situation, I do recommend that right now, the main factor that's considered for India and the success rate is booking the embassy appointment. Now, we do have safeguards as well for those who have visa denials. So, this is also something to further discuss in the discovery calls. But we do have safeguards for those who do get those visa denials.
Thank you so much, Christina. So I can see right now in the chat that we don't have any more, excuse me, any more questions. Hemant is thanking you, Christina, for the reply and is asking if we have an agency in India. So just to make things much simpler, I think that having just booking a discovery call and having a call online with one of our advisors is going to make things much simpler. So you can just click on the link that I just sent previously in the chat and you can discuss almost anything and everything with our advisors.
Just to add on in regards to what Kate mentioned, in terms of partnerships, it's always best before you book the call with us to also send an email to the Learn email that Kate has mentioned in the chat. And that is also on the screen here for Contact Us More, because just to get some context and understanding before you join the call so that the call can be productive.
Thank you so much, Christina, for completing this answer. I hope that Hemant that answered your question. Let me just wait for a couple of seconds just to make sure that anybody who wanted to ask a question maybe as of now has the time to type them down. In the meantime, I wanted to thank you again, Christina and Manu, for answering those questions and giving our participants of this webinar even more clearance on all of their doubts and questions that they had. And I can see that we don't have any more questions in the chat. So as mentioned before, of course, the recording of this webinar is going to be sent to all of you, and you're also going to be able to find it on our YouTube channel. And again, please feel free to either scan the QR code or access the links that I've sent in the chat to book a discovery call or send an email directly to Learn. Our advisors would be happy to interact with you and to answer all of your questions and learn more about your profiles. So thank you again for joining us. Make sure to follow us on social media. We host those webinars every month, and we would be happy to see you again and have a chat. So thank you so much. Thank you for the speakers as well. And we'll see you next month.